Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're really feeling the fall here, aren't we? This morning's really giving fall vibes. Like I busted out the fleece last night. I'm like, oh, I remember this. It's kind of fun getting the new gear out. Maybe time for some new Miale team swag, some fall swag. I did notice this week a lot of us pulling the quarter zip from last year out, which is probably maybe my newest favorite. But let's see. Let's see. Maybe we could sell some houses to pay for some of that shit, right? That's a good idea. Guys, this morning it's a gift. We are joined this morning, literally you guys don't know, you don't know because Gene is like he's like KW royalty. Gene, good morning.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
joining us. He's
My
shaking
pleasure.
his head because he's also extremely humble, but I am super excited to have Gene join us this morning. Extremely excited. Gene, you and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years through metrics, couple of rooms that we get to get in together, but you don't know why you're KW royalty to me because back in the day, do you know? Could you guess? Could you guess how? Could you guess how you've been lofted to that perch?
Probably just my experience with Bold.
Yes, man, you've been around from the beginning and like the very, very beginning, the very first bold class I went to, you did like it was a video live one-on-one with Diana. And so impressive. And I remember at the time, and Bennett's got his hand up. He's got to be wanting to chime in on this because Bennett's an early adopter too. Is that what you're jumping in on, Bennett?
Yeah, and I want to apologize for driving. I have like a big conference. It's way out in Eastern Connecticut, so I apologize for driving. But yeah, I was so excited, Gene, because you were on the original Bold DVDs that they gave
Yes.
out in 2009, and I seriously I remember you talking to Diana about your system. I think you even had the note cards like Gary, and you just talked about consistency in lead generation. And yeah, so again, I just wanted to say that and let you guys continue. But it is great to see you, Gene. After and I also I think I hung out with your wife at a family reunion one year many years ago as well. So anyway,
Well,
sorry to
so
interrupt.
so we've got the
Appreciate
fanboy
it.
club out of the way, Gene, but we
Very
are
good.
thrilled to have you. Thrilled to have you. So we're the Alley team, obviously here in Central Connecticut, and I started doing calls like this, Gene. I started inviting people to our team meetings on Fridays. We call this our leadership and personal development call. We started doing this well over 5 years ago. So we were very early adopters to the Zoom world. I mean, pre-COVID, probably 2 years before COVID, we started doing. We had one Zoom call a week, and it was this call, and we would have a guest come and speak to us, and just kind of share the secrets. So uh, I I know your history. I know a lot about it, but what we want to dive into today, kind of the stuff that we love to hear about, is really the journey that gets you from wherever it is you started from to where you are now, because you have an impressive pedigree, an impressive track record. You've done it. You've done it all. You started with humble beginnings, and so give us the sort of the overview, because at this point, and just to put perspective around it, you've run a team in Austin, Texas for the better part of at least 20 plus years now, running a team and consistently doing 100 million in production, consistently showing up on the top of the leaderboards in that market, one of the most competitive markets in the country. So clearly what you're doing works well. So let's just hear the story. Like, how'd it get started? How'd you get into this wild, crazy business?
I had my wife and I got together in 1991, and we had saved up some money to buy a house. And back then, we bought our first house in 1993. In doing that, we did what was called back then as a non-qualifying assumption. So we had $10,000. We took over a loan that was a 1987 loan, and it was 8.5%, and the rates at that point were 9.5%. So we thought we were winning. And through the process, I was going through community college. I had worked in a wood shop in Austin, Texas, unair conditioned for 8 years since middle school.
Whew.
So uh, we were looking at what I knew was, I wasn't the smartest guy in the world, but I had pretty decent common sense. And the people that I had met that were wealthy in some way or another, somehow or another had to do it in real estate. owning it, investing in it, whatever. And so started reading some books and trying to figure things out. And we were looking at a duplex. Yeah. And I was making like $7 an hour. I mean, it's not like I was just putting in 100 hours a week and trying to save money. And in doing that process, met a broker and he said, "Have you ever thought about getting a real estate license?" And I was like, no. He said, "Well, I'll sponsor you." And I'm like, "You'll sponsor me?" Oh my God. Well, so privileged.
Oh my
And
God.
oh
Wow.
my gosh, it was amazing. And so, the short story of that is he turned out to be a broker that his office was in his house. He was an alcoholic. He woke up at noon. He had no training. He wasn't he mostly dealt with multifamily. He said, "Here, send out these cards. I don't know what you did, just go figure out something." And so my first year, I think I sold 3 houses and made $11,000. My wife didn't have a job, or at that point, she was my girlfriend. She wasn't even a fiance at that point. And I switched. We bought another non-qualifying. We sold our other one. We bought another one, and moved out towards the lake. And in doing that, I sold a good friend of mine a home on the lake. And I met a broker on the other side. He was just a little bit older than me, but I was in my early 20s. And he said, "Hey, you should really come talk to us." And I ran to him a few times. I finally went and met with the broker, and that broker was I would say the training was there's no training other than just I got to sit in his Suburban and next to his brick phone and just hear him make deals. And just he said, "Here, do these things, call on these empty lots. If you can get somebody to sell me a lot, I got a builder, we'll build a house and you can list it." And so started doing that. And then just started learning and going to, whatever.
I want to interrupt. What I love about that is how simple it was.
Yeah.
Like he gave you one specific target and said, go do this one thing. And the beauty of being young and like you said, hey, I'm not the smartest guy, but I've got a lot of common sense. The beauty of that, and I think the beauty of that era, right? Because this has got to be what, mid 90s.
Yeah. 94.
Like we didn't have the constant inundated, fire hose of new ideas being thrust upon us. Our access to success came through the mentors that we surrounded ourselves with. And so that guy he gave you good advice. He said, do this one thing, do it well, and you'll get paid for it. And so it wasn't very I think about my first radio ad sales job. It was the same thing. It was like it was a phone book, and it was just like call people till they agree to meet with you. There wasn't, oh, what about, fancy brochures? What about, it was just, oh, that's my job. That's just the thing that I do.
Yep.
How did you work your way through, Gene, like going from a wood shop where the job was pretty precise and pretty meaning like, hey, today you're going to come in and you're going to do this thing. And then when this is done, you get to go home, to the open-ended experience of real estate, where this is where I think a lot of agents fail. They suffer through the mindset of, my God, I'm putting all the effort in, but not getting the results. How did you work through that?
I mean, it was pure grit, really. My coach today, talks about making sure that when people join our team, they're prepared, especially if they're brand new, that they're prepared to work half days. And so that means they're prepared to work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? Or
Mhm.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And for the first 6 months, they've got to get in the time on task on whatever they decide to do. And so for us, obviously lead generation is super important, and we'll get into that. But that's what I was doing. I just woke up. I was the first one in the office because, nobody was coming in at 7 or 8. I was checking the hot sheet and I was just looking for properties that, might be a good buy that I got excited about. And I would go look at them. And then, when you get excited about a property, you find a buyer. It's kind of weird, right? And so that was my kind of early part. And I did shift because I was in my 20s, and I, looked young, didn't have any facial hair back then. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in and be the waterfront guy. And so I knew every waterfront, everyone was for sale, anything sold, every for sale by owner, everything had gone off the market. Anybody who kind of thought about it, I called other agents, on their listings and said, "Hey, can I hold it open?" So every weekend I held an open house. And so for Austin, a lot of our waterfront or second home traffic came from Houston. So people would drive up, come in the open house. I knew everything. I knew where the floodplains were. I knew what elevations, I know where the boat docks, everything. And so immediately I had validity. And so the consistency with that allowed me to grow a business catered around that.
Talk to me about waterfront in Texas, because I don't know the geography that well. So just again, you're in Austin.
Yep.
I know one lake that's Lake Travis, but there's other lakes too, right? So talk to us about the geography. Like how far apart were these places? Like how far did you have to drive to get from one lake to the next? Your clients are in Houston, you live in Austin. So what was your process like to like become the expert in that area?
And also just to remember, I didn't have a cell phone back then. I had a pager. We didn't have the MLS on the computer, right? It came out in a book. And so our fiduciary, the information that I had in my head and that I physically knew about properties was way more powerful than most people had, right? Because now you can go on the internet, you can find stuff, you can zero and you can Google Earth stuff, whatever. The main lake, which is Lake Travis, that I worked, is 64 miles long and has 1,200 miles of shoreline. It takes you 2 or 3 hours to get around it. I worked mostly what they call the South Shore, and that's where the Houston traffic wanted to be on the South Shore because that was the closest to them in that sense. So
So and I mean back then that there had to be a lot of opportunity. I mean, was it well overbuilt? What I mean now it feels like it's almost inaccessible part of Austin. Back then was that like emerging? Was it coming? Was it like up and coming or?
it's like anything. You've got certain neighborhoods that are going to be super high end, and you've got other areas that are going to be entry level in the sense of. So it was all over. Just depend on somebody's budget. Where they if they want to be farther out, farther away from amenities, they want to be in a golf course community. If they wanted to have an airport close by, whatever it might be. So it was hit and miss depending on what they wanted. But the thing was, I knew right, and I knew the elevations. And Lake Travis is a flood control lake, so it goes up and down. So our July 4th floods, which was, a horrible time for a lot of losses here, but it also filled the lakes up. And so we were down almost 40 feet. So the lake was not as pretty as it had been in the past. So, but just knowing that, hey, you don't want to buy that property because it goes dry, very quickly. Uh,
Oh, interesting.
so it's just, again, very bringing value. But just to change things a little bit in the sense that, for Austin, we had a huge market shift in 2001, because a lot of our wealthier people in Austin are in tech, and we had just a blow up at the NASDAQ. And so a lot of people were not buying luxury properties or second homes. And at that time, I reevaluated and I did the numbers and I looked at all the sales on the lake and I said, okay, if I had 50% market share of all of these homes, I still wouldn't do the numbers I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I backed out of Lake Travis realestate.com, and I had bought 10 years earlier, but I hadn't used it, was Austin, Texas realestate.com. So I flipped and I said, okay, I'm going to go broad. And at that time, Dave Jenks was my coach, who's a co-author with Gary and on the MREA book. And he said, because the market sucked, he's like, you go anywhere you have to, you take any listing you have to. And what I found out was interesting because all of a sudden, when I'm reaching out to people, they thought, oh, I thought you just did lake property. I didn't know you could help my sister over here buy this house or help me find some land over here. And so that actually opened more doors for me. I didn't realize I'd pigeonhole myself so much, and which was fine for an initial part of growing my career. But it came to a point where now it's time to make a difference. And about that same time in 2000 is when I joined Keller Williams. And so that was the first time I was open to models and systems like leverage.
I remember having a very similar experience early in my career where somebody from like two towns over would call and like I live in a town called West Hartford in central Connecticut, and somebody from Farmington, which is like 15 miles away, would call and be like, hey, I need an agent in my town. Do you know anybody? It was wild because just like you said, Lake, it was like people didn't realize that real estate expanded beyond borders or beyond, they just didn't know because I was so laser focused on this one particular thing. And so I had this change in the way I presented myself as statewide. I just started saying serving the state of Connecticut as opposed to West Hartford or one specific town instead of pigeonholing myself that way.
Right.
Now, you mentioned something that for some of the people on this call who are under 30, they're not going to appreciate that that your coach co-authored really the industry changing book. I mean, things were very different before this book came out, and this book moved the needle. Talk to us about Dave Jenks as a coach. I mean, industry icon, literally, the guy that Gary tapped to write the book with him because he had so much information. What are some of the big takeaways you got from Dave? And how long were you able to coach with him?
I coached with him for probably 3 or 4 years,
Okay.
and he was here in Austin, so I actually drove and met with him.
Wow.
So that was kind of, now thinking back on, wow, that was kind of weird, but I guess, it
Right.
was, he was kind of, royalty in in that sense. So I was happy to drive to International and, just hang out in his office and those kinds of things. Being 25 years ago, that's hard to remember. And
Yeah.
honestly, the most impactful coach that I went to after him, and that was Tony DeCello.
Okay.
Dave was great. I mean, he had the, he got me out of being just the waterfront guy and thinking bigger, in that sense. But Tony really, Dave was more of a friend. Tony was like keeping it real every
Yeah.
week. Like
Pushing.
he was not letting me get off because I could BS my way around stuff, and he
Yeah.
would not let me do it.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that welcome to the club. That's like professional barrier to entry is can you BS your way out of stuff?
Yeah,
Welcome to real estate, right? So talk. I mean, still two massive icons in the industry. I mean, people that move the needle massively between Tony DeCello and Dave Jenks, and
that
it's
just
it's to me,
very.
I'm so have you how much of what you've learned from them have you integrated into the way that you run your business, what you teach your teams, and what are some of the core elements of that you still carry with you?
I think the main thing, especially with Tony, is I always thought I lead generated. Always thought I did. And Tony also came around a similar time as Bold. So there's a kind of a series there, right? I've got Diana over here, which is his wife. I got him
Mhm.
as my coach. So they did impact each other very well. I hired my first very I would say life-changing assistant, executive assistant. She had a lot of D. I don't have a lot of D. So I have it now because I know what I'm doing, but I'm pretty reserved, and I'm not very outgoing. So for me, having D as an assistant, which basically was an implementer,
Yeah.
so she was on my coaching calls with me, and so she heard what I was committing to, and she would not let me get away with anything that
Oh, I
I'd
love
committed
that.
to, right? And so that was super powerful. Going to weekly coaching also made a difference because with Dave, I was going every 2 weeks. With Tony, it was weekly, and so it allowed me to not get very far off track.
Mm,
Um, in 2 weeks, I can really BS what may or may not have happened, right?
yeah.
Weekly, my numbers are my numbers, my commitments are my commitments. It's just tougher, right?
We always say you can catch up if you miss a week. You can't catch up if you miss a month. Like
No,
you cannot make up for a lost month of time. Like if you have a goal and you have, a number of things you're supposed to meet, contacts, appointments, agreements signed, and you miss a whole month, the ability to catch up, especially if you've missed the whole month, means your habits are way out of alignment. You're not doing the things you're supposed to do just to get to the minimum. It's going to be real hard to catch up if you miss a whole month. So I love that. So the weekly coaching had a big impact for you. What
and
were
then
some of the things you implemented like during that time? So you go from like the small brokerage, you go to KW in 2000. You've got this like model where you're shifting from lakefront to and like talk to us about what your business looks like at that point. Is it you're still a solo agent or is there you said you got an assistant? Like bring us through the evolution of leverage for you.
I got to about 300,000 GCI at that time,
Okay.
being the lakefront guy. And pretty much by myself. I had attempted some assistance, but I failed horribly. When I joined Keller Williams, they're all about teaching you how to hire and, using the disc profile and using the different ways of hiring leverage. And so I failed miserably in the sense that when I met somebody and I was like, this is a good fit, I like this person. What I found out was I was hiring myself. And
Hmm.
so I was putting somebody behind a desk who didn't really want to be behind a desk, who would rather go out on an appointment with me than
Yeah.
do the stuff that I want them to do. Right.
Right.
And so that happened over and over again until I finally hired Jennifer. And so she did not want to be out. She wanted to be in and knock stuff out and just, make a difference behind the scenes. And like really, when Gary talked about doing 2 to 3 hours and then it became 3 to 4 hours later of lead generation, I really thought I was doing that. I was showing up in the morning, I was checking my emails, I was checking the hot sheet, I was making some calls, but I was also going to the, coffee maker and hanging out. And I was going to the team meeting, and then I was going to go to the property tour. And then there was an open house on a Wednesday that had a luncheon. And so I was doing what I thought was work.
Yeah.
Then when I really got into Tony and to Bold and to what it took to make 20 contacts a day, really contacts, when you're
Yeah.
tracking it and having 20 conversations, I realized I was totally BSing myself.
Yeah, we live like you see, I see it all the time. Like we have like a call day on the team, and like the team goes in, but nobody's actually calling. But people are like, I went, and it's like, well, yeah, but the calling is the part, right? Like it's so interesting because we play office. All of us do it.
Yeah.
We play office. Like we put on the outfit and we go in and we're like, I'm playing office, I'm playing realtor. And it's like, no, the work part,
Yeah.
imagine doing that at the wood shop, like going to the wood shop and putting the apron on and running the saw and stuff, but not ever touching a tool to the wood. Like never actually cutting the piece of wood, never actually putting the nails into whatever it is or screws. Like your outcome would be a pretty subpar piece of furniture.
Yeah. And so when I got into making those 20 contacts a day, several things changed. One, and also remember when, fast forward to 2008, when Bold really came out in March of 2009. But in 2008, that's when our market cratered. June of 2008. It was like we had been blowing and going in 2006 when the East and West Coast were starting to feel it. In 2007, everybody's crying, but we're still, foreclosures all over the country, but we're still doing great. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm like, holy crap, we got foreclosures, we've got crazy inventory, we got no buyers. And then October of 2008 is when the stock market took a big old dump. I mean, it
Yeah.
was bad.
Yeah. Enron was like November, I think, of 2008 when like Enron went out of business and people were like, wait, what? Like
Yeah.
it was like this institutional 401k investment, blue chip was gone.
Yeah. We
Hmm.
lost all the banks. And, it was just, is GM going to go out of business? Is Chrysler going out of business? Is Ford going out of business? And so I had all my closings canceled, no closings until March of 2009. That was my first closing. And so luckily I was pulled in and said, hey, do you want to be part of this beta test? We're doing this class and called Bold. And so I sat in there, learned really what it meant to truly make 20 contacts a day, changed everything. I mean, all of a sudden, my business is growing. And,
Yeah.
and it really just came down to having those conversations every day. And it just created so much work. So, making and having a coach that said, all right, you are going to have 30 minutes of nonstop lead generation. And of course, Jennifer was there to make sure I did it. And then he got me to an hour. And then he got me to an hour and a half. And then he got me to 2 hours. And then he got me to 2.5 hours. And then he got me to 3 hours. And I'm really good at 2 to 2.5, but 3 hours, I suck, man. I'm like, ugh,
Yeah. Right.
I
Right.
can't make it work. So, but what happened was I was consistently doing that. I was just flipping over rocks, trying to find deals, and it just created crazy momentum.
Right.
And in a downturn, I went to 800,000 GCI.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the next year, or I'm sorry, yeah, I went from 400 to 800. And the next year I went to 1.5 million.
Yeah.
And it just, it took off from there. And so at that point, it just became a culture of this is what we're going to do. We're
I
just
think what
have
what what like we're a team of, we like to consider ourselves pretty high performers who get to show up to work every day, outperform the average. But what you're describing is the gear that is so hard to get people to understand that yes, it's hard to get, but it is the biggest payoff. That if you can just buckle down for 30 minutes to an hour to two, for just 5 days a week, put 10 hours of this focused effort into outbound energy. that the ROI is so much greater than the pain it takes to get there. It's like like we suffer through it because we just don't feel like the results are coming fast enough because they're so much longer. But being that you got to, I love this messaging, Gene. It's so important. It's so many agents need to hear it more that like you went from I thought I was to I actually was. And I think for most of our team, they think they are, but they're not actually. Like not the way that you're talking about, the 20 contacts a day, the actual communication, outbound energy required. But I love you really truncate it. It's 2 hours. Like it's not your whole day. You just have to be prepared and equipped to do it for 2 hours and do nothing else for 2 hours. And that could be, we talk about cold calling, out, just some form of outbound interaction consistently for that amount of time. When you talk about going from 300,000 GCI to 800,000 GCI to 1.5 million in GCI in a period of what, 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one assistant and one buyer's agent.
Um, with just an obvious question, but I ask it because I think everybody needs to hear it. What other industry or opportunity could you have done that in at that time?
I had no skill set for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there another option where that was a possibility?
The funny thing is that I played a little bit of golf in high school, not for the high school team, but just with buddies.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get a job at a golf store. That was my backup plan.
Well, I am glad that you were unemployable because at the end of the day, that would have been the greatest tragedy ever, right? Would be
Yeah.
that you were selling golf shirts and stretchy belts to dudes on a golf course as opposed to just buckling down and doing 2 hours a day of
Yeah.
focused lead gen. Who did
Matt, I was going to say the cool thing is that when I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, where you go home and maybe you weren't very productive at the office, maybe even though you were there all day, and you get home and then all of a sudden you look around, you're like, to my wife, it's like, this isn't done or that's not done or what did you do today?
Yeah.
And it's really a reflection of yourself, right? And so when I started really knowing, hey, this is my job. My job is to do this for 2 hours a day. That's it, right? And when I would come home and I did that, I was happy. I was enthusiastic. I was not looking for why you didn't do something because internally I was really disappointed in myself. And so that really helped me internally as a husband and as a father to be, much more satisfied with internally when I went home by just doing those 2 hours. And, going back to Gary's One Thing book, and I hope you guys have all read that book. But he really talks about you can control the first half of your day, but you can't control the whole day. And so we talk about an energy plan, right? And so I follow that energy plan. So I get up, I pray, I work out. This morning I worked out at 5:30. I have my Bible study at 6:30. Cut out a little early so I could be on here with you guys. And I'm ready, right? So at 9 to 11:25, I lead generate, right? And then the rest of the day, if I don't have anything going on, I've already done the hard stuff, right? I've eaten the frog. And so I can feel good about myself and not worry because I know all those contacts I made are going to show up 90 days from now.
Yeah.
And the business is going to just stay consistent because I did those 2 hours,
Right.
Now,
Well,
I give myself the energy to make sure that I ate well and I worked out to be able to not do those 2 hours, right? And to be healthy and have my mind right and be clear. So when I am talking to somebody, I can make a difference.
You said a couple things that are just so important. First, your energy plan dictates how effective you are at doing the thing you need to do. So you serve yourself first. You get up, you exercise, you perform your version of sort of spiritual fuel through Bible study. You feed yourself first. And then you know that, okay, now it's time for me to go do the work. And then you commit to doing the work and you're done by 11:30 in the morning with all the things that most of us carried throughout the day, knowing we didn't get done. What you just said, doing the thing actually creates the positive energy. Not doing the thing is the thing that carries the weight with you. So like you said, I go home better at the end of the day because I've done the thing. And like every one of us knows there's something you carry with you you're supposed to be doing that you're not doing. And the energy of carrying it with you is 10x what it takes to just go do it. So what I love, Gene, is how focused you are on that like core understanding. Like, well, I just have to anyway. It's my job. It just has to be done. Like, there's no end around. There's no easier way. I'm just going to do this thing because it creates the outcome that I want for my life. It creates the energy that I want for my life. It makes me the husband, the father, the provider that I want to be, and it leads me on a path toward the life that I want. I think most of us wrestle with that. There had to be some part of your, what maybe it was in your coaching or your training. Did you ever push back on that, or were you just always just willing, like, okay, just tell me what to do?
Well, I mean, a couple of things happen, right? When I first started, I wasn't married. I mean, Susan and I were together, but I had no kids, no real responsibilities other than figure out how in the heck to make money, right? How are we going to make a living? And so I could get up, work, go to the gym, and go back to work. And, I had all the hours in the world. As we started having kids, I've got 3 kids, 26, 24, and 20. It was all of a sudden, it's like, oh man, I can't keep doing this. I got to figure out some kind of leverage in my time.
Yeah.
And so my day couldn't stretch 12 to 16 hours. And now it needed to be very concentrated. And, as Gary says, he uses in the One Thing book, he talks about your phone, right? And he says, you wake up in the morning and it's green. By the end of the day, it's red, right? You're out of power. And so for me, about 80% of the people, they have power in the mornings. There's about 20% of the people that actually are night owls and they can get a lot done and those kinds of things. So for me, I know I will not do the hard things in the afternoon. I will not. And so I have to do the hard things like getting up and working out and doing the lead generation. I won't do it in the afternoon. I just won't. I fight it and I think I will and I won't. So I've just designed it where I have to do it. Like I have no choice. And because I don't have the willpower is gone. My willpower is gone.
Yeah, by the end of the day. And
I
so,
can talk.
so talk to us about how you design that, because I think that a lot of people hear this message, know this message. This isn't new, and yet still wake up every day and don't make the choice. So how did I think one of it is like you clear the decks, like you have to somehow make sure that nothing else can interrupt, right? So at some point you get up, we have a morning call every day from 8:30 to 9. Our design around that was, hey, you have a morning call, you're out of bed, you're up, you're ready. Your prep for the day should happen between 8 and 8:30. At 9 o'clock, there's nothing to do. Go do the job part, right? From 9 o'clock to 11:30, go do the job part. But something happens that interrupts, right? So how have you managed to control your mind or the distraction around the things that happen? The phone call comes in, right? You're going to get off this call and you're going to look at your phone and there'll be some stuff there. There'll be emails, there'll be text messages. Maybe somebody on your team wants to quit. Maybe somebody wants to join your team. Maybe somebody just texted you and said, "Hey, I'd really love to hire you to be my agent." Maybe you just got an offer. Like good things, bad things, they all happen at all times of day. So you're ready to start your day, and then boom, you've got all this stuff. How do you handle that? What do you do?
So really that just comes down to your bunker, right? You got to
Right.
create a bunker. And so initially when I first really was training myself, and today it's so easy for me to lead generate. It feels weird if I don't. Like I kind of get jitters if I'm not lead generating. And it's not like I wake up and go, I want to lead generate.
Yeah.
It's not, that is not there. I
Right.
just know that that's part of my job and it's very easy for me at this point. Initially, I had to have my cell phone away from me. I did have a landline, right? So I did not have any distractions. I didn't have email pulled up. I only had my call list. That was it. And the door was shut. I have a standing desk, a mirror in front of me, so I know I'm smiling. And I just, you know, they're happy, they're home, they want to talk to me, and I just go, right? I always start my day with my birthdays. I usually have 2 to 8 birthdays a day from past clients that I'm calling. So that's kind of really good energy.
Love it.
Often the first person to wish them happy birthday for the day. And they get used to it. I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, dude, I can't believe you remembered again. Right. And then it goes to my hots, right? My seller leads that I'm going after. And then after I finish those, I go into my nurturers, like who's my A pluses that I need to talk to every month. And so, the call list is there. So I don't have to create. I'm not walking in and creating, who am I going to call today? Just that alone will either kill your lead generation time, or you won't do it, or you get stuck into like, let me prepare all this first before I actually pick up the phone and make a call. Or I
Yep.
need to know the script. Let me practice the script before I actually call somebody. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a point where you just have to do it and fail forward.
Well,
And
something that you just said was actually an epiphany for me, because I know that in the the days where I'm grinding, or where I would do exactly the same thing, just wake up and make the calls, the creation of the list becomes the roadblock, right? The idea of like, but who am I going to call? But what am I going to say? But how am I going to do it? And what I love is you just rattled off, well, this is how I do it. I do birthdays, then the follow-ups, then this and this and this. But some of those post things require that you had lead generated in the past, meaning your listing leads that you're chasing, that you're trying to close. Well, you wouldn't have those if you hadn't made calls 90 days ago or 120 days ago for the people that said, hey, call me in the fall. We might be thinking about getting on the market before the end of the year, right? So you've created the system that creates the system. It's self-feeding, right? So, but you got to start somewhere. So I love how your model has just sort of built upon itself, right? And birthdays first thing in the day, that's brilliant, dude. I've never heard that. I mean, we do birthday messages automated through Facebook. I've never heard of making that your first call every day. I think that's brilliant.
we email them first. I mean, that goes out at 8:30. And then I call, and if I don't get them, I text them. And
You
so,
text them. That's awesome. I mean, what a super smart, and like you said, probably the first person wishing them a happy birthday that day. I think that's awesome.
yeah. And everything we're hearing right now is, um, it's going to come all back to your database and your relationships,
Oh,
right? The more
always.
and more do not calls, the more and more don't do this. We just had a huge, starting October 10th here in Texas, some stuff they rolled out on how you can touch people, how you can't text them, how you can't email them, unless you have certain permissions. I might have to register my team as in the state of Texas and get a bond, for telemarketing, in the sense. So anyway, all that's going to come back to how more and more important it is that you have enough people in your database that when they think of real estate, they think of you, period. That's all it is.
Gene, your business, again, with all that lead generation, and we're a team that really does a disproportionate amount of our business through database, right? We do it through a series of events and giveaways, and constant touches and communication through the people that we know through our sphere, with a lot of energy around. Okay, if you don't have anyone to call, then go make new friends, right? So like that's just sort of our mantra and our method. And I think your business is similar, right? A lot of your business comes from people that you already know. What are some of your sort of go-to calls? Like, what's your favorite one to do? Like when the well is dry, you're not feeling it. What's your baseline? Again, we heard birthdays. What else do you do if you haven't talked to somebody in a while? What's your number one call? What do you like to call them and talk
It's
about?
honestly just because the way I have it set up, it's really, there's nothing else, right? It's really, they're set up for birthdays, and they're set up for, if you're an A plus, you're monthly. If you're an A, then you're every 2 months. If you're a B, you're quarterly. So I mean, it's just that I have enough people. I've sold just over 3,000 homes the last 30 years, and I can't. It's hard for me to even get through those.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Right. Right. So basically it's nothing more than where you sit in the funnel, and the
yep.
phone call is just a hello, it's Gene checking in, want to see what you're up to. Is there anything I can do to help? Are you ready to get on the market? Are you thinking, another time? There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, no, and I'm really an introvert at heart. So doing events and those kinds of things, it's not my thing. I know.
No.
I don't like to shake hands and kiss babies. One of the most powerful things I've ever did was when I got a buyer's agent. I had no idea that taking out buyers all day wore the crap out of me.
Ah.
It just, later I found out my personality, I don't like small talk. So
Mhm.
going from house to house and BS and in between and this and that, I get home and I just wore out.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a
You're
miracle.
like, these people actually want to hang out. You were
Yeah,
walking to the door like, you want to buy it? No? All right, let's go. And they're like, hang
yeah,
on, Gene. What about
yeah,
this? What about that? Yeah.
yeah. So it's just, knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And so I've got people that want to just hang out with people and love on them. And and, really listen as to their needs, and in the sense on the buyer side. So it's one of those things that, um, you know, finding out what works for you is also pretty critical in that sense.
I mean, I think the knowing yourself part of this business is the gateway to whether or not you're going to get to be successful. That's why we spend such a disproportionate amount of time working on, we categorize it as mindset, but self-improvement, personal development. Like, you have to be able the feedback loop in real estate is so fast and dramatic, meaning if you enter this industry not prepared to look yourself in the mirror, which, dude, I love that you have a mirror in front of your phone, in front of your desk. That is another really, really good takeaway. But if you're not ready to look yourself in the mirror and own and confront the person that you are bringing to the market as a product, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to be able to deal with the amount of rejection and the speed with which you have to be confronted with it. And so that self-improvement component, that ability to know yourself, is just foundational. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have an industry that flushes people out so quickly, is that it's very uncomfortable. In those early years, Gene, what was your experience around that? Like being coached by Dave Jenks and being coached by Tony. You said Tony. As you said Tony, there was a weight to the way you said it, like, oof, the guy was no bullshit. Like, can you think of any moment where he gave you some feedback that was like really game changer for you?
Oh yeah, I can think of it right now. March of 2013.
Yeah.
March of 2013. Our market had sucked for 5 years, and every single one of my listings closed. Every single one went under contract in March of boom. It's like the market shifted on that month, and by June, I'd done more that year than I'd done the whole year before. And so in my coaching call, I was like, man, whew, I'm kind of getting tired. I need
Yeah.
to take some time off. Like I need to, I kind of deserve it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm like, I think we're gonna go to Europe for a month and da 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 da. He's like, Gene, he goes, you're sabotaging the second half of your year. You are absolutely sabotaging the second half of your year. You're late, you're pulling your foot off the gas. And at that time, I didn't have enough agents to, I was the lead generation, and I still have a decent amount. But we weren't balanced in the sense where I could take off because we didn't have enough lead generation happening.
Mhm.
And I did. I took off almost 3 weeks in July, and holy crap, my fall sucked.
Yeah.
In the sense that just those 3 weeks, and it's really a few days leading up and a few days getting back. So, it's almost a month.
Yep.
The lead generation did have consistently, and so after that, I'm like, all right, I get it. And I also realized at that point too, that was me. Like I would normally get ahead and then all of a sudden pull back.
Of
Like, oh,
course.
we're doing good. I got a bunch under contract, da da da, and I'd pull back. And
Yep.
so he really got me over that hump of just not being self-sabotaging myself over and over again. Because
Well,
then I
that's the
woke up.
feeling. That's like, gosh, I don't know how many times I've seen it or experienced it myself. That is the feelings-based business versus the outcomes-based business,
Yep.
right? I feel good. I have a lot under contract. I'm looking at the future pace of my income. I feel good. This is going to work. And then what you realize though is that we don't celebrate closings on our team like it's a cultural thing. We don't talk about congratulations, you had a closing, because who cares? The closings happened 120 days ago. So we celebrate activities and outcomes for that very reason, because the closings are a false narrative. Like you get too comfortable with the idea that, like, oh well, the money's in my bank now, so I must be okay. The problem is if you don't have future money coming in and future deals coming in, your feelings are going to betray you. You're going to be on this hamster wheel forever. And, that's a really powerful way to put it. So Tony helped you get over that. He gave you
Oh
the
yeah.
consistency. Was
Yeah.
it was it tactical? Like, did he give you tactical things to do, or was it more mindset stuff? Like, you went to Europe, you had this amazing time, you came back, and you were like, "Oh shit, where's all my business?"
He was all about activities. I mean, he was all about activities. I mean,
Hmm.
that solves everything, right?
Yep.
Enough appointments, enough listings taken will solve everything. So we
Yeah.
really focused on what's the numbers, what's the numbers. I mean, he's a DC, so he's direct and he's analytical.
Right.
And so when he retired, I switched to Abe Shreve, and Abe was a little bit more on the mindset stuff for sure.
Yep.
And so he definitely worked on the mindset stuff.
Okay. So yeah, the tactical to me is everything. Like we run on a mantra called do the two, which is effectively you've got to have two consultations a week at a minimum in order to hit, any reasonable level of lifestyle. So two consultations, meaning two buyers or two sellers that you're presenting your value proposition to in a given week. If you're not
Yep.
at least doing that, you're behind. Like it's just two people that need to hear what you have to offer and give you the answer of yes, no, or not right now. And if you don't have two, it's a D, like it's below a 2.0. So, Gene, thank you for taking the time with us. And we've got about, 7 to 10 minutes left here. If it's okay, I'd love to open it up for questions or comments. You're still good on time?
Yeah, I'm good. My wife's trying to tell me something. What's that, Susan? Never mind. It's like looking at me, telling me this, and I'm like,
She's like, it's almost time to lead generate,
I
Gene.
can't read your lips.
Yeah, it's time to get on the phone, buddy. All right, guys. So we've had the pleasure of
He
having
shut this
literally, oh,
down.
look at this guy. Amazing.
That's Priscilla.
Hello, Priscilla. Look at those ears, dude.
That's her dog.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, what questions do you have? What comments do you have for Gene? I'd love to hear from the team. What are some of the takeaways that you got? Nathaniel, rock and roll, buddy. What did you hear today that you're going to take away and get into action around?
Um, Figure out getting into bold probably. It's probably the answer that I really need. Gene, thank you so much for your time. I think we all found this very impactful. My question is a little bit open, so give me grace. It's more so around hearing that you started the business, you got into it, and you it seemed like you didn't really start at the right place, but you quickly pivoted and found the right people around you, and that seemed to be something that you cited as helping you propel your business. I just want to learn a little bit more about that, just because it seemed like it could have derailed you a lot, but you somehow found a way to get into the right space. So I found that powerful as well.
Thank you. It's interesting that second broker that I had was definitely helped me on doing deals. But what I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? And when Keller Williams came into our market, I mean, they were already in Austin, but we were just west of Austin. So, and when I joined Keller Williams, and the culture around that was so much better than where I was at. And then I realized, from other people later, that my broker, he was questionable. He played in the gray a lot. And so
Mhm.
I didn't see that. I was young. I was looking at him doing all these deals, and he was, developing this and doing that. But his reputation reflected on me. And
Mhm.
so when I left, people looked at me differently. Like it's like, hey, good move. We like you now, but because you were over there, we're always kind of questionable whether or not you were that kind of guy too. So it does matter where you are, and you don't know what you don't know, and until you get some years on you.
That is super, super powerful advice, Gene. Really, and again, we see it in our market too. There's definitely, your alignment, proximity is power, and who you hang out with matters for sure. So, love that. Thank you for that. EB, what are you thinking?
All right, so huge takeaway. So for those of us on the call, Gene, everybody except for you knows that I like to talk. So I'm like the opposite of you when it comes to wanting to engage the world. However, I don't always have the quality that you intentionally set aside of conversations. It's kind of like if a tree will listen, I'll talk to the tree. If a rock will listen, I'll talk to a rock. So, but you have very good planning in place for intentional, meaningful conversations so that you are making and impacting your clients' lives, your customers' lives, but also in your business by doing so. So good reminder for me, who will talk to anything with a pulse, or maybe even not one with a pulse, that quality is more important than quantity. And that was a big takeaway for me today.
Thank you. Yeah, we talk. So we have a power up also every day from 8:30 to 9, except for Fridays. Fridays we have a 10 o'clock call. We're part of Place. So Place has this call that everybody's on. So we don't do or 8:30. But I finish that every day at 9 o'clock and I say, go help somebody. That's it. We're only here to help somebody. That's it. It's yesterday I was on a call and they said, the most stressful things in life, number one is marriage, getting married. Number two is divorce. And number three is buying or selling a home. Right. So we are dealing with people in one of the most biggest stressful things ever. It's exciting. It's sad. It's happy. It's a lot of work. They're packing. I just tell my people, nobody wants to move. It sucks. There's nothing great about it, but you are moving obviously towards pleasure or moving away from pain or whatever it might be. And so we just got to go help somebody. And so when you're talking to somebody, it's just you're listening and just say, how can I help them? Period. And so you're just looking in that conversation. It's like, how can I help? That's it. And if you do that, they will appreciate that and you will earn their mind share. So when I do think of real estate, they think of you.
Thank you.
Gene, I just wrote it down. So awesome. Like, you cannot summarize the nature of this business any more than that right there. If you wake up, not go sell a house, not go find a deal, not find just go help someone, and you realize that you have the power and capacity to do it every single day, it makes it a tragedy that you won't get on the phone and try to help. Like, you're Superman, but you're keeping your Clark Kent clothes on because you're just afraid people won't like the way you look in tights. Like, who cares? Go friggin' help somebody. I love it, Gene. I love it so
if
much.
you think about it, we all know people that are successful, but they're really not good people, right?
Oh, God.
And we know people that are not successful, but they're just not good agents and they're not good fiduciaries. And so if you don't make that contact and don't help that person, they could really end up with a bad situation and a bad agent who doesn't have their best interest. And so,
I mean, it's likely that they will, because the reality is that the mediocrity in the business, especially around the fiduciary component, is very high. There are a lot of, like you said, even the first broker you worked with, there are a lot of agents that play in the gray. They're just not, they don't put their clients' interests at heart. And so I really love that. That's a big takeaway. So many great nuggets today, Gene. Today, you made an impact, my friend. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you for sharing your time with us. How can we help you? Where can we show up in your life to support you, to support your team, to support your business? Do you have some socials you want us to follow? Do you have some spots where we can, make some comments? What can we do to move the needle for you?
I wish I would say that I do a lot of social, but two things. One, if you go to, obviously find us on Google and give a review, and that's all. It's the biggest thing for us. And landing there is, and even for me, I've been worked so hard to build our business around referrals. And today, those Google reviews are just as powerful, if not more powerful, than our one-on-one referrals. People still you may get a referral and get your name, but they'll still go look you up. And so that's super powerful. Second, if you need anybody in San Diego, my daughter is kicking butt out there. She is amazing. Her name's Liv Arant. If you look her up on Instagram, if you're new, Matt, if you've got anybody younger on your team that really wants to learn how to use social media, she's killing it. I mean, she has so many appointments every week because she's just educating people about this home or that home, or this is what this means, or this is how you can buy a home today, in that San Diego market.
Yeah.
And being 26 years old, she's really kept trying to figure out for herself, how do I get into this market?
Right.
She's just really being transparent. And she's just winning so well. I mean, she did 20 million her first year.
Wow.
Real estate. Yeah. And it's all through social media. So
That's unbelievable. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Her name is Liv, or it's Olivia, but she goes by Liv. So
All right, we'll find her. She just probably got, 40 new followers. So you did a great job promoting her. Yeah, awesome job, Gene. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, guys, we're always blessed to have special guests like Gene here. So follow him, go get on his Instagram, maybe throw a Google review for him and his team. That would be super powerful and helpful. And, again, we want to always honor that people come and spend their time with us. A couple things before we go. I just want to give two quick shout outs for two huge wins that we had this week. Aaron Baruso, I want you to tell everybody what happened the other day that you shared with me because I'm putting you on the spot here. She didn't know I was going to do this, but it's just so stinking cool that you guys need to hear this. Aaron, what happened that you were like compelled to share with me? I need to hear it. What happened?
This was the most ridiculous insanity. I shared Joe's listing on my Facebook page because it's in the town over from me. He texted me to say one of my clients came to his open house, and I asked him if it was the person I thought it was, and he's like, no, it's this guy, Adam. At the same time he says this, I get an Instagram and a Facebook message from someone I went to high school with named Adam, who's like, I went to go see that listing you saw. I love the house. I want to buy it. They're making a decision tonight. Not signed with him, haven't spoke to him in 26 years.
Amazing. So again, you shared the listing. He goes to the open house and says, my agent is Aaron Veruso. And Joe's like, hey, your client came. And Aaron's like, who's that? Right? I freaking love it, dude. I love it. I love it. I love it. Amazing.
Yeah, so didn't talk for 26 years and under contract on that listing 24 hours later.
Amazing. And you got the deal under contract. Amazing. Good job, guys. I love it. Why I love this story so much. I love this story so much because too many of you are still playing the secret agent game, pretending that you're going to fit it in between I'm going to be an agent, but I'm not really going to be out there talking about it. Aaron just got a massive win. By the way, a win for two agents on the team, just simply by being out there in the world, talking about what she does, being public in her persona about it. And how many of y'all would like to have somebody from high school call you tonight and say, hey, I just went to a property and I told them you're my agent and I'd like to go under contract? I mean, I would like that. I would very much like that simply by doing the job every day. So massive kudos to you, Aaron. Huge win. Congrats, Joe, for getting it under contract. Way to go, guys. And then Shane, I'm going to pick on you too, because you also texted me with a pretty, am I even getting this right? 2 buyers and 2 listings in a week?
4 buyers, 2 listings.
Wait, okay, that's more than one per work day. Where does this come from, Shane? Like, what is all this activity? That's six new people in your pipeline in 5 days?
Yeah, it comes from the work I did, right? Back there.
It comes from the work. So let's just sort of break it down for me. 4 buyers that come from, I mean, I'm sure they come from various different sources, but everybody always wants to know.
One is door knocking. My last listing, he lived across the street, buy, sell.
Amazing.
One is a referral from one of the loan officers I use in Shelton, who's also my cousin. She goes, I got a good one for you.
Awesome.
So that was really nice of her, but I give her business. And then one is homes.com, random call. Hi, can I come see your listing?
Sure.
It's under contract, but what else can I show you? Cash buyers. And one is I was in the lead pool back in May, just playing around. Cash buyers, buy, sell.
Amazing. And I mean, all of that comes together in a single week at a time when most agents are saying, it's almost Thanksgiving. I'll get my goal next year. Shane just went and took 6 opportunities off the table for everybody else. So amazing. Tons of kudos. And guys, it's no mystery. You guys see what Shane's doing every weekend, double open houses, door knocking, doing the work and reaping the rewards. Well on her way to crushing her goals. So amazing. And congratulations for that. And I know there's other wins out there, guys, but those 2 in particular just struck me as, regarding 5 stars for the week. Listen, we know what to do. There's no mystery. There's no missing part. You literally have a workout of the day that tells you exactly what to do today. We could literally turn to whatever page, and you have a prescription. And the fact of the matter is that unless you are just overflowing with deals, the next 2.5 hours, Gene just laid it out for you. You want to build a business and sell 3,000 homes. There's only one thing to do for the next 2.5 hours. Get on the stinking phone, talk to more people, create opportunities, Go do the thing that you know will create the future opportunities for yourself, your family, your life. That's it. And at the end of the day, if you sign something, sell something, or set an appointment, is there really anything else to do? Nothing else to do. So make it a great day, everybody. Love and appreciate y'all. Have an awesome time. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you are crushing open houses this weekend, guys. It is going to be a busy open house weekend. I guarantee it. See you later, everybody.
Thank you, Gene.
You're welcome. Go help somebody.
Thank you.